now, South Carolina Senator Tim Scott. Senator, there are so many different places to start. You sit on foreign relations, so let's start with Ukraine, where Trey ended for us. The Pentagon is withholding some key defense systems, some munitions, some weaponry. They say we are trying to make an assessment about U.S. stockpiles here. Russia seems to be taking the advantage and opportunity now to just unload on Ukraine. It doesn't seem like President Putin is listening to President Trump. Is this a bad time for us to be withholding some of those armaments, especially those that are most defensive in nature?
Yeah, there's no doubt that President Trump can be trusted on solving some of the major conflicts around the world. What we've seen under President Trump over the last couple of weeks, Shannon, has been remarkable success. A Gaza ceasefire, no more a nuclear Iran, and real progress in conversations in Europe. I trust President Trump to get the job done. That means that we start here at home. The level of escalation around the world requires Secretary Hegseth to take a look at our weaponry and make sure we're prepared for defense. I believe that after that time has elapsed, that we go back to providing the resources necessary. But this has been the most remarkable few weeks in an American presidency as it relates to, frankly, world peace and taking care of the domestic front at the exact same time. President Trump can be trusted to get this job done as well.
So on this issue of Russia and Ukraine, though, there are critics who say they think President Trump is to blame for some of where we are in this situation. One media outlet in France says this: the White House not only halted a planned shipment of arms to Kyiv, it deliberately bypassed existing sanctions to offer economic relief to Russia's nuclear giant Rosatom. I know that you all in the Senate are talking about tougher sanctions on Russia. But what do you make of this accusation that President Trump has made things too easy on President Putin? Should he make things tougher?
Well, Shannon, the only word I can think of is hogwash. Let's take a look back in history. President Obama, an incursion in Ukraine. President Biden telling Putin, you can attack parts of Ukraine, just not too much of Ukraine. Those two precursors set President Trump up in a poor posture. President Trump has done what he has always done, which is to focus on solutions and looking for ways to end the conflict. We just heard him say Putin is killing thousands of people unnecessary. That's why he's been in constant communication trying to de-escalate the situation, and at the same time having Secretary Hegseth focus on our responsibility of keeping Americans safe here at home and abroad.
Well, and you referenced Gaza. We know that there were more strikes over the weekend there that were deadly. Israel says it continues to go after what it believes are terrorist targets. The Prime Minister will be at the White House tomorrow. How does that conversation move forward? What needs to happen?
Well, first, I think this is going to be a conversation of celebration that will start the conversation. Listen, the fact that Israel's Air Force was so successful in Iran was the precursor setting us up for really no resistance when our bombers came into Iran to eliminate their nuclear program. Then you'll pivot back to the Gaza ceasefire and the release of the remaining hostages. And then I believe the conversation will turn very quickly to the Abraham Accords and Abraham Accords 2.0. Normalizing relations in the Middle East for Israel is how we de-escalate the entire Middle East region.
Well, and as we wait to find out more details about exactly what's happened to Iran's nuclear program, we know that UN inspectors pulled out. Iran basically is saying they're not going to work with them anymore. Makes it tougher for us to, assess exactly what has gone on there. I know that you had a Senate intel briefing on exactly what happened. Do you have any sense of the enriched uranium products, hundreds of pounds, maybe tons of them, that we don't know the whereabouts are? Are you convinced that those are out of reach of Iran, out of their use at this point?
I was at that briefing, Shannon. I can tell you two things for certain. I believe the intelligence community, when they say President Trump's original comments were 100% accurate. We have devastated Iran's nuclear program. And number two, when you see 30,000 bombs dropped on one location, you got to believe that sets it back by years.
Okay, I want to also hit on this. The Fed chair, you have reached out to the Fed chair about some expenses that you say are going on with essentially the Fed's offices here in D.C. Rooftop garden terraces, ornate water features, Italian beehives, which even for D.C. was a new one for me, and a private art collection. I know that he wrote back and said that he takes this expenditure very seriously. You're the chair of the banking committee. He says there will be conversations with your staff about this. What more can you tell us?
Well, we're frustrated, to be honest with you, Shannon. During the hearing that we had with the Fed chair, he suggested that those were not there, and then I sent him page after page after page, giving him the page numbers of where we found the information. That is how come we're having a meeting setting up between my staff and his staff to go through this. It is frustrating when the average American sits at their kitchen table unable to make the ends meet, and at the exact same time, it feels like we have the Fed chair building a Taj Mahal at the Federal Reserve. We need to focus on the American people. We need a stronger economy, and the way we do that is by getting the job done, not by building some ornate, beautiful building for the Federal Reserve, but by focusing on building a healthy, strong economy for the American people. The working class Americans deserve relief. It starts with lowering interest rates, regulatory certainty, and frankly, the tax cuts in the BBB.
All right, we're going to talk about that with our next guest. But in the meantime, I hope you'll keep us updated on the beehives whenever you find out what's going on there. Senator, thanks for your time.
I told him I didn't even know what it was. Yes, ma'am.
We'll find out. Okay, joining us now.